Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and how exactly can you retire in 6 years to 10 years, okay? Now, by the way, this right here is my full plan. And the reason I chose 6 years is basically, as you guys probably know, I'm 24. In 6 years, I'll be 30. And the goal is by 30, I'm fully financially free and don't have to worry as far as that aspect right there. However, though, guys, okay? If you are 40 or 50 or 60, you can still follow this plan right here to go ahead and also retire fast also. And by the way, this plan right here guarantees that in a way, you will retire up to 3 times faster than the average person that waits until they're basically 65 to go ahead and say, hey, I'm finally retired. I'm 65 years old now, okay? And by the way, guys, this video right here is going to be broken up in 3 parts. The first part is my old plan, which basically means like the fire stuff, financial freedom, independence, all this stuff. But in reality, it relied a lot on investing a ton of money and hoping everything goes well with the market. Terrible plan. Number 2 though, part 2 of this video is going to be all about my new plan, which basically means you invest less money, but end up with more money in your investments while you don't have to rely so much on your investments. You'll get it when you see it. And the third part is all about, well, Tommy, this video is for people that have high incomes. In reality, no, it isn't true, okay? You can still follow the plan if you have a salary that's actually pretty decent of 40K and up. However, though, for this video, I'll use an example of 70K. Why 70K? Because basically, as an accountant, if I go out there and work as an accountant, I can earn 70K. As a nurse, 60, 70K starting salary. There are a lot of trade jobs out there that allow you the ability to go out there and earn between 60 to 70K. If you earn 50 to 40, that's fine. But anything less, the answer is you gotta go out there and upgrade your skills to be able to earn a little bit more money to be up to like around 40 to 50 to 70K. 70K is the sweet spot by far, okay? But this video, I'm going to break everything down. Now, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day, so you should also subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified. And on top of that, also destroying the like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know exactly by what date or by what age do you want to retire and why. Comment down below, let me know. And by the way, it also helps a lot with the algorithm, so thank you guys so much, okay? Now, the very first thing, guys, is basically my old plan and why I actually chose it, okay? And the whole plan was basically, I was going to invest as much money as I possibly could to retire as fast as possible. Again, my target was 1.2 million, but on top of that, I was going to be investing around 90% of all of my income. Now, not just that, I was just going to live on just 10% of my income. By the way, kind of like a lot of money because basically I do have a high income and so on, but not really that much, like only around like $2,000 a month, something like that, okay? However, though, why I went to this plan was basically because, hey, I always felt like, YouTube is great for money, but you never know what's going to happen. So I want to take advantage now and invest all of this money. But again, this plan, although it sounded great, invest. It actually wasn't. It actually had a lot of flaws with it. The first thing was, guys, in order for me to retire in 6 years, okay, put in all this money into the stock market, guess what? I had to invest somewhere around $12,000 every single month for the next 6 years, okay? Now, by the way, yeah, I have a high income, but for how long? The idea was this entire plan was way too dependent on a high income that had to be stable for a very long time. And YouTube, by the way, is not that. So that was the first flaw. Now, the second flaw, guys, was basically market downturns. No matter how much I invested, I cannot predict the market and a potential downturn within that 6-year period. So for example, if I invested all of that money, and then, for example, the market crashed by 50%, 20%. Well, now what happened was, hey, I need to keep investing more and more and more money until it goes back to normal. When would that be? The answer is, I wouldn't know when. The third flaw is basically, it was kind of illiquid, right? Meaning, hey, I can take out that cash whenever I want to because it only works if I leave that money inside that portfolio. Because if I take it out way too much, guess what? I'm going to run out of money very soon, okay? Now, the plan is, guys, okay, if you had a market downturn and I no longer had a job, for example, and I was relying on this income, what would happen was basically I would have to take more money than I usually would. And that would hurt me, for example, in the long term, meaning it wouldn't last me as long as it should. Now, lastly, guys, I was putting all of my eggs, that was the flaw here, all of my eggs in the whole stock market basket. Now, by the way, that's a great egg or basket to have money in. However, though, it's not when all your money is in that, because guess what? After 6 years, all I would have would just be that $1.2 million invested. And that would be a big problem. Basically, I have no home, no actual house or anything like that, okay? All of it would just be in the market. So if I get a crash, if I lose my income in some way, if I have to take out more money, all that stuff is going to hurt me in some way. So overall, I was just way too reliant with this plan right here on the market and everything going great. And by the way, $1.2 million, okay guys, if you lose 20% of that, it is not a small amount of money. If you lose 50% of that, guys, okay, that's around like what, like 600K? Well, now you have to wait until it goes back up with the market, or for example, put more money into that. And by the way, it might take a while. And that's why when people retire at age 60 or 65 and they have so much money invested, yeah, but you have the market downturn, well, now they have to go back to work. Because guess what? They don't have all the money they need to actually survive. And that's not what I wanted for myself, obviously, guys. And by the way, if you're watching this video, for example, in 2021, right now the market looks great. It looks spectacular, right? Everyone is making money, whether in crypto, whether in index funds or ETFs, mutual funds, everything right now is making money. And in a way, it's kind of like artificial. The Fed is pumping a bunch of money into the economy, rates are low, people borrow more money, it goes up, right? The whole economy goes up, it goes up. The market also goes up, goes up. However, though, one thing I learned from Warren Buffett was basically, you want to be fearful when people are greedy. And you want to be greedy when people are fearful. And right now, honestly, I'm kind of a little scared, because you have this massive market, right? And it's growing and it's growing. But we all know it's growing because basically the Fed is pumping a lot of money into it. Now, I'm still investing, but the idea was, if I would be investing all that money like I was investing before, the answer was if it crashed, okay? And by the way, when it crashes, it could crash for a very long time. So basically, if I kept doing that entire plan to get to that $1.2 million, and by the way, guys, it could crash. Why? Because when you have inflation and the Fed pullbacks, less money out there, right? Guess what happens? The market might actually go down, right? And when that happens, you could have, for example, a whole trigger where everyone's trying to get out and then you have a problem. So basically, imagine this goes on for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And all of a sudden, I have 1.2 million in there, but now it crashes by 50%. Or 30%. Well, what do I do now? Well, the only answer is you gotta keep investing more and more and more money. Again, the plan is way too reliant on a perfect market and also, for example, on a perfect income, because sometimes when the market crashes, the economy crashes, you can also potentially lose your job. If you do that, you might have a massive issue also. And by the way, guys, if you're curious, tell me, why do you pick 1.2 million? Why not 2 million or 10 million? Because basically, when I ran the math, guys, it showed that basically, hey, I only need around 3K per month to actually live a pretty comfortable life, right? With a mortgage, with kids, with food, all that stuff, okay? So in reality, I only need around like 36K per year. So if I actually have 1.2 million and I take out, for example, 4%, by the way, 4% rule basically means, hey, I take out 4%, that way the money lasts longer because it grows at more than 4%, obviously. The answer was, hey, I can actually get in passive income 48K per year. So if I only live on 36K, but I get 48K, that way I have a little margin of safety, which by the way sounds great, but that's not enough because basically if the market does crash by a lot more, I'm going to need a lot more than 1.2 million. I might need at least another 20% or 30%, which might mean, for example, not 1.2, but in reality 1.4 or 1.5. And again, that's going to take a lot longer to actually get. And if I try to do that, for example, in 6 years, will I go from 12K investing every single month to maybe like 13 to 15K invested every single month? And again, we have all those same issues, all those same flaws coming into effect again. Way too reliant on a perfect market. All my eggs in one basket. oh my gosh, my income has to be high forever. The answer is you don't want to have a plan that relies on all of those things way too heavily. And by the way, when it comes to the stock market, you have two scenarios you basically don't want. You have bad and you have nuclear. Bad means, for example, you have a recession, you have a correction, you might lose 10, 20%. You're not really, right? Because you're going to stay there for a long time, you keep investing and so on. But by the way, also 6 years is short term when you come into the market, right? So 6-year plan, a lot can change in 6 years. But the idea is bad can mean, hey, you lose 10, 20%. But nuclear can mean, hey, Tommy, I lost 50%. We had a war or whatever. You never know what's going to happen, right? You know, March 2020 with a pandemic, we went down by like 30, 40%. So you never know what's going to happen. It could always go nuclear. Nuclear is like, hey, when the worst thing happens out there, will you have enough money in your retirement fund to actually keep taking that money out and everything be fine? So overall, guys, it was a plan that was way too reliant on a perfect market. And by the way, you might say, Tommy, well, you know, if you have a recession, depression, it won't last that long. You know, I wasn't alive during 1929, and probably neither were you. At least like you're like 90 years old, something like that. But the answer was 1929, we had the Great Depression. And up until 1980, people did not recover from the whole lack of confidence in the stock market. So we could have a whole 20, 30 year depression. If that happens, what are you supposed to do? If you lose your job, what are you supposed to do? So overall, my bad plan was because of that. And by the way, a lot of people that follow FIRE, that is what they're trying to do. They try to invest all this money and even have, for example, emergency safety. But again, if you own nothing up to that point, you're going to have a massive issue. And that's why I switched plans completely. And this new plan of mine, okay, part 2 of the video here, the new plan A requires me to invest less money. B is also a lot less risky. And C, I'll actually own something by the time it's time to actually go ahead and retire. And also, by the way, if you're wondering, Tommy, what are you going to be investing your money into? The answer is going to be index funds and ETFs. If you want to see exactly what to invest money into, I'm going to put a video link down below. But overall, this new plan of mine is just based on the course I'm currently building for you guys also. Now, the course is not done yet, so you won't see any links down below, but check the links down below because basically I might put it down there with a coupon code, like maybe like 2 months from now. That way it could potentially be there depending on when you're watching this video. But the overall plan is basically a 4-step plan towards financial freedom that requires a lot less money and a lot less headache. And also, guess what? It can also happen a lot quicker also. Tommy, this sounds so fake, right? It's not. You'll see all the numbers right here. Again, remember, to retire with my income, all that stuff, I would need to have a stable income, to put my money in the stock market, all that stuff, have 1.25 million with the safety of margin in case it crashes, all that stuff. But with this plan, I don't need that much money, to the point where I don't need 1.2 million. I only need around 805K. And that's included with a safety margin of around 50%. And as you guys know, a safety margin is extremely important because again, if it crashes, when it crashes, you want to have a safety margin in there so you have enough money to actually live on. So imagine if I have 805K, and that's with a 50% margin included, right? That means the market has to crash by over 60% for it to actually affect me in some way for a long period of time. So now the odds are now on my favor. They're on my side. And that's what's so important about this plan right here. Now, the first step of this plan, guys, is to become debt-free, right? So debt-free is very important. How do you do this? Well, step 1 is you want to save 1K for emergencies. So while you're doing this plan, you want to have that 1K there in case something happens. That way you can have that money there and not have to stop over and over again. However, if you do use that 1K, you put it back up, you build it back up, and then you go ahead and continue. When you're paying off debt, the answer is you want to use the avalanche method. Okay, meaning you want to pay the debt with the highest APR first. That way you save money. The third thing is also you want to have a bare knuckle or bare bone budget, meaning you only worry about 4 things: about shelter, which by the way should not be more than 30% of your monthly income, also utilities, also groceries, and lastly, transportation. And by the way, if you have a new car or a lease, the answer is you get rid of it. You try to sell it, you pay off the difference, take a loss, and then you go out there, you buy a used 3 to 5 year old car. That way you don't have to pay for that either. So you can take it off your entire debt payment. But once you're debt free, guys, you'll be in a much better position. Now, me personally, because again, this is my plan here. I currently owe around 21K in student loan debt. And I also owe T-Mobile 1K in debt or whatever, in a way. But in reality, I'm getting that money back because I do like payment stuff like that. But another video for another day. However, though, that 21K in student loan debt, I haven't paid it off because basically until September of 2021, we won't know if they're going to forgive it. But I wanted to go beyond step one. So what I did was basically, I set aside $21,000 for a student loan. That money set aside, I won't use it. So that's how I can go from step one to step two. So in reality, in a way, I'm debt free because I have that money there to pay that debt off in full. Once September hits and say, hey, we're gonna forgive it. Okay, great, you forgave it. If you don't forgive it, I'll pay it off in full. I don't care. But at this point, it's not charging me any interest whatsoever, so it doesn't hurt me in any way. However, though, if you know for a fact you won't have all that money there by September, the answer is you want to save that money up, put it aside, or you want to start paying off right now because that way you can pay it off without worry about the interest on it, okay? So pay right now if you don't have that money and pay them credit cards off, that car note, probably sell that car, get rid of it, and that way you're good to go. Pay every debt off except the mortgage in this part, okay? That's the idea for part one. You want to become fully debt-free. Now, once you're debt-free, number two is going to be you want to build a foundation and you also want to build a little wealth. How do you do that? Foundation means, hey, if the worst happens to me, I lose my job or I break a leg, I become disabled, something crazy happens. You want to have at least 6 months worth of emergencies in your account. That way you have 6 months to go ahead and figure out whatever the problem is. And you also want to invest between 5 to 10% of your income to actually build a little wealth, or you're actually saving up that money for emergencies. However, if you're very impatient and just more determined, the answer is you can just focus on, hey, I'm just going to do the emergency fund, focus on that first, and then later on start investing. But at this point, you don't want to invest more than you save for emergencies because the priority here is to save for emergencies. So me personally, again, it's my plan, my budget here. The answer is I already have 12K set aside when it comes to emergencies, meaning, hey, that part is taken care of. That way, 6 months worth, okay? If anything happens, I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. If YouTube stops today, I have 6 months to figure things out, and that way I'm gonna be fine. But that's why also I have 3 channels, and I'm also working on a 4th one. That way you have more diversity, and that way you're kind of more good to go, okay? Yeah, I got 3 channels, links down below if you want to join me over there. If you want to call me on my 3rd channel, I take calls for free from Monday to Friday. Again, link down below to the Ask TommyBryson channel if you want to join me over there. Now, step 3, guys, is going to be financial freedom. You want to work towards freedom. How do you do this though? The answer is, well, you want to take care of your most expensive expense ever, and that's basically shelter, right? Shelter is usually going to be either half of your income, but it shouldn't be. Usually the rule is no more than 33% of your monthly income. That's the rule right there. So you want to pay off your mortgage here, or you want to start saving up for a down payment for a home. Now, I can already see the comments here. Tell me, but you're not right here, because basically, if you live, for example, in California or in New York, it might not be a good idea to go out there and buy a home. I get that. I understand that. But the answer is you want to save up money to buy a home for a down payment. That way, when you are ready, you're good to go. If you're going to be, for example, in New York, just run the numbers and make sure they make sense, because sometimes they don't make sense. Sometimes it's not worth buying any properties in New York or expensive areas. That's what we want to use, for example, a rent versus buy calculator to figure out, hey, should I buy or should I rent? But the answer is you want to save up the down payments no matter what. That way you're good to go when the time comes. And by the way, if you're serious, you might want to say, hey, maybe I don't want to live here because it's so expensive and I'll never actually own anything, okay? That's why also a big part of me leaving New York is just basically it's so expensive here. It'll take like double or triple the money that I actually need to retire here because it's so expensive here. Now, the big step here, guys, is you want to pay off this home. So me personally, guys, okay, when it comes to this 3rd section, you gotta be basically saving for a down payment, but you also gotta be investing between 10 to 20% for your retirement. Because again, this part right here is gonna take a while because you only finish once you're done with the house. So for me, I'm going ahead and say, hey, I'm gonna save money for the down payment, but I'm still going ahead and also investing money. That way, by the time I'm done with the down payment, and also done with the house, I also have a big enough nest egg to actually say, hey, I got money on the side here. But the big deal is this, guys. When you buy a home, this right here is going to be the most important rule you follow. It's called the 33% rule, using also the 15-year down payment. It's a mix between a lot of rules out there, including, for example, Dave Ramsey. But the overall idea is basically when you buy a home, you want to make sure all of the expenses combined are no more than 33% of your monthly income. So that includes, for example, the mortgage, the taxes, the PMI potentially, also the insurance, also, for example, HOA fee, also, for example, maintenance, everything included cannot exceed more than 33% of your monthly income. Now, potentially you can put down 10% or 20%, but no less than 10%, okay? That's the idea here. Now, once you buy this home, the reason you got it, for example, on a 15-year mortgage is basically it limits you to a cheaper home, but also it becomes a lot more easier to manage and also a lot more faster to pay it off. Now, again, if your home is only 33% of your monthly income, that means you should still have income to go ahead and invest and also pay extra towards the mortgage. Again, the goal is pay off this house as fast as possible, not in 15 years, 30 years, as fast as possible. Now, if you do this correctly, the average person is going to finish, for example, in 8 to 11 to 12 years, a lot faster than 15 years, a lot faster than 30 years. Now, me personally, guys, this is a step that right now I'm stuck on for a while. Why? Because basically, I'm moving from New York to Puerto Rico, and it's never a good idea to move somewhere and buy a house automatically. You got to stay there for a while to make sure, hey, I actually like it and I actually want to buy something, establish some roots here, okay? So for at least 1 to 2 years, I won't be buying a house in Puerto Rico. However, I am going to be saving up the money to go ahead and buy a home. Now, once that's bought and paid off, step 4 is going to be the autopilot mode, which basically means, hey, my house is paid off. I have no debt. I have an emergency fund, and I also have a lot of money in investments. By this point, if you want to invest more, go ahead. Keep investing though, okay? Because you want to have money when you retire. But you can keep investing more money. If you want to have fun, have more fun. If you want to give more money away, you can give more money away. Now, for everyone that's a lot like me and a little nosy, Tommy, what are your exact numbers here? What exactly are you doing? And by the way, that's the 4-step plan. Debt-free, save for emergencies while you invest, then start investing for real while you pay off a house or save for the down payment, and then lastly, the autopilot mode. It's very simple stuff. However, though, what are your exact numbers here, Tommy? Well, currently right now, I live with my mom until June, but the answer is I spend well less than 10% of my income staying here. But when I go to Puerto Rico, I'll be spending somewhere around 17% of my income on expenses, around 17% of my income on expenses. However, currently I'm investing 35% of my income, and I'm also saving, for example, 46% of my income for a down payment on a home, okay? That's the idea right now of what I'm doing. The other 2% is going towards charity and me actually having fun, okay? Because right now, it's about building financial freedom. That way, I can give a lot more money once I'm done, setting my own foundation and everything else. That's the idea. Now, the truth is, guys, that basically, if I'm saving 46% of my money, in reality, in the next 2 years, I will have around 161K actually saved up. Now, because I'm also investing, for example, 35% of my money, guys, in 2 years also, I have around 429K invested. On top of that, also, I have 90K in cash. So between cash and savings, that equals somewhere around like 250K. So automatically, in 2 years, I could say, hey, I'm just gonna buy a home for cash and get done and rid of step 3. And that's going to be amazing. Now that means, for example, that now, okay, now I'm 100% debt free. So if I wanna go ahead and invest, for example, 69% of my income, I can if I want to. And on top of that, the expenses to live over there with no mortgage is only going to be around 12% of my income. So I still have room to say, hey, 10% for fun, and also 10% for charity. And that's a whole different level. Now, that's only in 2 years, guys. 2 years from now, I'll be what, like 26? But the answer is, guess what? I still have 4 more years. Now, if I'm investing 69% of my income and still have a pretty good life, right? Because I'm still having fun and all that stuff. The answer is, in 4 extra years, so 6 years total, I will have almost $1.2 million invested. But the big difference is that, hey, now I have a home that's appreciating with time. I'm giving money to charity. I'm having more fun, and I'm doing whatever I want in a much shorter period of time, because basically I took care of the biggest expense that's basically stopping me from financial freedom. That's the whole idea here, and that's what I'm very excited for. So basically, when I go to Puerto Rico, I'm saving up money, saving up. But once I'm done in those 2 years, I say, hey, I like this area or I like that area, I can go ahead and basically buy a house or a condo. Not really like a condo, most likely. Most likely like a house. By the way, houses over there, like 4 or 5 bedrooms are like $250, by the way, okay? They're nice too, by the way, in safe areas also. So potentially, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. So the whole idea is, guys, I go from having to have this perfect high income. And by the way, I don't have to invest all my money now. I went from 90% of my money invested to only around 35% now, okay? A big difference. Now, the big deal is, hey, all my eggs are not in one basket. I also have a massive safety of margin. I also have to worry about downturns anymore. I also have a home, so that's taken care of right there. I can give more money away. I can have more fun. And 10% means, hey, if I want to buy a fancy car, I can if I want to. If I want to travel, I can if I want to. If I want to eat out more, I can if I want to, right? That's the amazing part here. The point is financial freedom. Frugality is great, but having more freedom is also awesome. Now, you might say, Tommy, by the way, that's part 2 of this video, but part 3 is, you might say, Tommy, well, this plan only works because basically you have a high income, but that's not true. And here's why. Because again, if you have a 70K income, you can still do this. 50K income, you can still do this. 40K income, you can still do this, okay? 30K income is going to take a very, very long time. So you want to raise your income by getting any skill. But for example, let's say you make 70K. How would you actually do this right here? And how long would it take to actually retire? And by the way, if it takes you 10 years or 15 years, don't complain here. Okay, don't complain here. Because the average person takes around 45 years. Remember that, okay? And on top of that, people say, hey, I'll buy this car, pay it off in 5 years, right? If you're good doing that, the answer is you should be good also spending 10 years. Okay, 10 years is a long time, I get it. But it's also 10 years of you actually saying, hey, I'm going to be financially free and I don't have to depend on anyone anymore. It's a completely different feeling. And by the way, for some of you, it might take between 10 to 15 years, because in reality, you might have more debt than the average person, and that's a part of the game. So you got to take out the debt first before you go ahead and start investing, then you buy a home, you pay it off, and all that stuff, okay? And by the way, do not budge on this stuff, okay? Do not say, hey, I'm going to buy a house on a 30-year mortgage, because now you have a problem where, hey, what if you don't have that money that month, right? You got to make sure the house you buy is cheap enough you can actually afford it on a 50-year mortgage. That's the idea. But overall, if you make 70K a year, the answer is the steps are still the same. You save for step 1, 1K for emergencies. You have a bare knuckle budget, only basically shelter, utilities, groceries, and lastly, for example, transportation, right? And you pay off your debt using the avalanche method. That's the idea right there. That's the core foundation. Once you're debt free, by the way, avalanche method again means you pay the debt off with the highest APR. So if I have multiple student loan debt, I pay the one off with the highest APR, not the highest balance or the lowest balance, okay? It's the highest APR. That way you save money mathematically. Once you're debt free, you can say, hey, I'm going to invest 5-10%, but the goal here is to save for emergencies. Again, foundation plus wealth building, just a little wealth building here, right? And once you save, for example, 3 to 6 months of emergencies, well, you're done there. Step 3 is you buy a home using, for example, the 33% rule. In this case, I ran the numbers, okay? You can actually buy a home that's worth 270K, and that will be within your budget of 33% of your monthly income. On top of that, if you're going ahead and basically say, hey, I'm going to pay an extra 15% towards my mortgage to pay it off faster, the answer is that's around $875. That means you finish, for example, in 9 years instead of 15 years, instead of, for example, 30 years like the average person. On top of that, also, while you're doing this, you should still be investing at least 10 to 20%. Now, the cool thing is basically that if you were investing 15%, you would have somewhere around 156K invested into your retirement. So now, in 9 years, you have 156K, a lot of money. You also have a paid for home, great. You have no debt. You have an emergency fund. Now it's just autopilot. You keep investing that 10, 20%, great. But you can also have a lot more money now to say, hey, I'm going to go out there, have more fun, give more to charity, invest more if that's what you want to do. But the answer is, it's a lot better position. And the answer is, again, you don't need to have a massively high income. And the trick is, guys, that basically this whole plan is just one person. But if you get married, for example, with a good quality person, whether they're a housewife or if they want to make more money, well, that means you have now a partner to help you with this whole process to get there even faster. That's the overall idea here. And by the way, if you have a salary of 70K, but you work, for example, a side hustle, that means extra income to pay off your mortgage faster and then basically invest your money later. But overall, I love this plan a lot more. And that's why I'm building, for example, a full-blown course. And by the way, you probably want to tell me, but what if I have kids and the college fund? The answer is, when you're investing in step 3, you should invest at least 5% extra towards a 529 account when it comes to your kids. That way, if they're 18 years of doing that, by the way, you will have a lot of money in there for their college fund, okay? That's the idea. But overall, this plan takes care of everything. And that's why I'm building a full-blown course. So if you want that course, comment down below, let me know. And also, if you watch this video, for example, 2-3 months later, check the description, it might be there, and I'll put a coupon code there because basically, you guys have to see everything first-handed, okay? So again, guys, that's my plan. And that's how I plan to retire, for example, not really in 6 years, but more like 3 to 4 years, okay? But the plan is 6 years to kind of like average out for the worst nuclear options possible, all right? But that's the idea. No longer am I so heavy on the stock market, but I'm also saying, hey, I'm debt-free, have emergencies, and I'm saying, hey, I also bought a home for cash, that way I have it. We can also put down, for example, 10, 20%, put down extra 15% every single month. But the idea is you want to buy a home that's cheap and affordable. That way, it's not a burden and it's not costing you all your money. Houses, man, are expensive. So make sure it doesn't cost you everything you have, okay? My grandfather, this video is long, I know, but my grandfather is, I think, 65, 67 years old. He's still paying off his mortgage. He has like 40K invested. His only retirement fund is basically his home. But once he sells it, he has to pay some of it to the mortgage, right? So it's a massive issue. You won't have enough money. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be that person right there. That's the idea, okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Comment down below, guys. Let me know, was this video helpful? And did you make it all the way to the end of the video? Comment down below. Let me know, because I want to know if you made it all the way to the end, okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. It helps a lot also. If you guys want to DM me, well, join me on Instagram, TommyBryson. And if you guys actually want to talk to me one-on-one, well, join me on my TommyBryson channel, also linked down below, where I post there every single day. By the way, I make 3 videos a day on 3 channels. And also, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Another video right here on how to invest money, okay, $1,000. And another video right here, and basically, well, not a video, more like my face here. Click my face right here, see what happens. See you guys tomorrow, and as always,